What is the purpose of life? What is the greatest thing that you can do with your life? I think you can ask a million people and get a million different answers, but my favorite answer comes from Friedrich Nietzsche, from Emerson, and I think they're very much aligned on this ideal. And today we're going to talk about what the greatest thing you could ever hope to accomplish is. And simply put, it's being yourself. Now that everyone clicked off, it truly is. And I say that as a joke because I feel like a lot of people have said, oh, you just have to be yourself. Oh, you just have to do this. And it sounds like such non-advice, but it really is the greatest advice that you can ever be given, because I don't know anything about you. You don't know anything about me. How could I ever tell you what you need to do with your life? And the truth is, everyone has their own unique idea of what a good life is. Even if it aligns 99% of the way, it's still a difference in opinion. It's still a difference in what would fulfill me ultimately, what would fulfill you ultimately. But oftentimes we're steered away from this idea simply for the sake of conformity, simply for the sake of fitting in, for being like everyone else. And it drives a wedge between who we represent ourselves as and who we really are. And really, this is the biggest reason for the use of SSRIs, all of the depression, all of the bad stuff happening in the world is purely because people are living inauthentically and trying to cope in not good ways. And essentially, if we want to get to a world and a state where, we're progressing as a society, where we're actually solving the problems, we need to start dealing with the individual first. And Nietzsche embodies this ideal through the Übermensch, and I'll use this example, I'll use this allegory to explain it. Essentially, what he's stating is that when you live in accordance with your idealized version of yourself, when you're not held back by anything else, you can embody that person, you can become that person, and you can inspire the whole world around you as you do it. And essentially what he's saying to do is never conform. Never listen to anything else. Never do anything that is not purely your own motivation. And this sounds super, super easy, but I need you to ask yourself, what do you do on a daily basis? Do you go to work because you want to or because you have to? And I know there's the argument that, oh, you can't be alive and function and not having to go to work, but do you need that large salary? Do you need that specific job? Or are you forced into that job because you made poor financial decisions? And these poor financial decisions were based on something else. Were based on society. Were based on a peer pressure to keep up with the Joneses, or your parents telling you have to go to college, and to pay off that college loan, now you have to, work this job that doesn't do anything except break your soul, break your spirit. And essentially, this is what Nietzsche's urging against. He's telling you that if you allow others to control you, you'll never be you. And if you're never you, then you'll never be happy. And Emerson said something that I think rings true, and I think you'll agree with as well. But really what he said is, to be yourself is the greatest accomplishment you could ever have. And Nietzsche, I can't think of a quote that exactly confirms this, but he said very adamantly that me and Emerson are brothers of the soul. So let's just take that assumption and let's just run with it and say that to Nietzsche it didn't mean anything, the success, the accolades, the things that people threw on you. It meant how you viewed yourself, and if you were living authentically. And if you lived authentically, then that was the greatest thing you could do. And this is an awesome allegory. This is an awesome metaphorical example. But what can we do with this information? What does this benefit us? Why should we study Nietzsche? Why should we study the things he said? This is a man that died completely mad, that didn't listen to anything that he was even telling us to do. And the reason I really want to emphasize that last part is because I think that's the number one criticism of him, is that he basically went insane. But it doesn't deny the truth of the statements. It doesn't make these statements any less true. And I know that there's some place in your heart that you're feeling right now that this is true. You know that you don't make every single decision for yourself. You know that you allow peer pressure to pull you back. You know that you're not pursuing everything that you want to pursue. So what do we do about this? What's the solution? What's the answer? And it's fairly simple. It really is. I want you to look at your life. I want you to look at the things you do, and I want you to count the amount of things that actually make you happy. Count the amount of things that don't, and slowly start replacing those things. Slowly start trying those things that you told yourself you were always going to do. If you want to start that hobby, start that hobby. If you want to start that business, start that business. If you want to go back to school, go back to school. If you don't like your job, don't quit right away. I don't know if you can or not, but start saving up money and start looking for a better one. Like don't allow anyone to guide you. Don't allow anyone to tell you anything if it's against your own interest, if it's against your own heart. If something deep in your gut is telling you this is not right, this is wrong, this is not who I want to be. Start listening to that voice. Start taking those risks. Start saying, you know what? If people like me for someone I'm not, I don't want to be liked by them. I only care about being liked for who I really am. And if nobody else likes me in this entire world except myself, then who cares? And when you have the courage to say this, then you have the courage to be yourself. And when you have the courage to be yourself, then you can be happy and you can be fulfilled. And you know, we'll take this to the Gandhi quote that basically states, be the change you want to see in the world. If you want the world to be a better place, and inspire others. And inspire others through your action. And, you know, the vast majority of disagreements, the vast majority of judgments, the vast majority of people overstepping and infringing on other people's rights is purely because that person is not okay with themselves. You know, as Jung said, anything you do with anyone else is what you want to do to yourself truly. So whatever judgments you place on others, that's self-judgment. Whatever hate or anger or violence you put onto others, that's really self-violence. And when you heal yourself, you don't do these things. A whole person does not need to bring other people down. So now that we solved yourself, now that we solved the world. And essentially this is what the idea of Nietzsche's Übermensch is. If you want good recommendations based off of this idea where you can read about this more, the Gay Science is a tremendous section on Nietzsche's Übermensch. The Will to Power has various aphorisms that talk about it. It's really spliced throughout a lot of his writings, but I would say that the two main sources are the Gay Science and Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Thus Spoke Zarathustra is purely done in allegory, so it might be a little difficult if you're not well versed in symbols and you don't really want to pay attention, because the Gay Science puts it all in like a paragraph. So it's really easy to understand. You can probably even look it up right now. But with that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. I'm probably going to write something about Nietzsche fairly soon. I need to finish the writing I was doing on Jung, but if you want to read the stuff I write, go ahead and join my school community. If you don't, you want to just stick around for the videos. All the same to me. Any way you guys support me is frankly more than I deserve, so thank you. And yeah, peace out. I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay tuned for more.